how to use Devbox with Jenkins. As a Jenkins administrator, one of the roles you have is to install tools on your controller. That way, jobs can use those tools within either their pipeline or freestyle jobs or whatever. But as a Jenkins administrator, is that something that you want to be doing all of the time? Also, there are only a handful of tools that you can use within Jenkins, so you might even go to the point of using Ansible or other similar tools to install the tools that you need on your agents. What if I told you that there was a way that the end user, the pipeline author, could go ahead and define what tools they want within their own project? That's what Devbox can do. Here's today's starting point. I have a Jenkins LTS controller version 2.452.1. Attached to this controller, I have a Linux-based agent that has Devbox installed on it. The key part to that phrase, the only application that I've installed on that agent is Devbox. Now you might be asking, what is Devbox? Well, let's take a look at the documentation. Devbox provides portable, isolated development environments on any machine. And in our case, as a Jenkins administrator, we're going to be making that available to our static agents. Now, if you're using Kubernetes as your agents, then Devbox might not be the right fit for you. But if you have static agents, whether that's Linux, Mac, even Windows, this may help out in defining what tools can be used on your agents. The other thing that's really good about Devbox is your developers will be able to use the exact same versions of tools within their development environment as will be used on the agents. So let's take a look at the documentation for Devbox. If we take a look at installing Devbox, we can install on Linux, Mac OS, Windows, with the caveat using WSL2 or on Nix OS. Now, Devbox is a wrapper around Nix. There's another video that I've done about Nix. You can watch that. The link to that is down in the description. Now with Nix, you can do lots and lots of other things, but Devbox simplifies all of that. You remember that I said the only thing that I've installed on the agent is Devbox? Well, actually, I also installed Nix because Devbox has a dependency upon Nix. So really, I installed Devbox and I installed Nix. I also have a sample repository for this video. The link to that repository is down in the description. Before we take a look at that repository, let's take a look and see what we would do. We're creating a dev environment, so we do the installation of Devbox. So as a developer, I would install Devbox on my local machine or wherever I'm doing my development. I would create a development environment, so that means I go into my project. So that means the root of my repository, I would say Devbox init. Now only one person would need to do that. Then once I've done the Devbox init, I would say Devbox add whatever tools that I might need. Maybe that's Maven, maybe that's Gradle, maybe that's, you name it. It could be anything that's available to run on Linux, Mac, or Windows using WSL2. Once we've added in the tools that we need, in this example we can see it was rip grep, but the next example is a specific version of Python 3.10. When we created Devbox init, we got two files. We have a Devbox JSON and a Devbox lock. First off, you'll never edit manually the Devbox lock. For Devbox JSON, there will be times where you do make the changes, but for packages, always use Devbox add or Devbox rm. So once I've done that as a developer, I would go to Devbox shell and I would run the commands because now I would have Python version or in this case, rip grep version. So what does all this mean? Well, let's go take a look at the sample repository. What I have is a basic Spring application. In fact, if you take a look at the source code, it's not even a full application. But what we needed the Spring application for is I want to be able to run Maven with a specific version of Java. So if we go ahead and take a look at Devbox JSON, what I have is I'm specifically saying Maven 396. Now, where does this come from? The Maven 396 is a Nix package that's named Maven that has a specific version of 3.9.6. Same thing with Timerin-bin. I'm wanting to go ahead and when I run Maven, I want to use a specific version of Java, specifically the Timerin version 21.0.1. Now you'll also notice down in the section called shell, I've got an init hook, which is added there by default, and then I have a scripts block. Notice there are two scripts within that block. The first one is a verify. I created that one saying Java-version and Maven-version to find out what versions of Maven and Java I have available. Then I also have a build script, which is just running Maven clean install. So these scripts can be multi-line, single line, doesn't really matter. Just think about what would I type from the command line, then put that in the script. There's other ways to do scripts. Take a look at the Devbox documentation to understand more about how to do that. So this is a very simplistic example to where I'm wanting to use Maven 396 with Java 2101, and I'm wanting to build a Maven-based project. So what does my Jenkins file look like? If we take a look at the Jenkins file, what I'm doing, very first stage, I'm checking for Devbox version. I'm making sure that Devbox is installed, because if I run this pipeline and Devbox isn't available, then my whole pipeline would fail. So I'm just checking, is Devbox here and what is the version? I don't care what version it is as long as it's there. Next up, I'm running a stage just to prove that the version of Java and Maven that are on the agent by default are not going to be the ones that we're going to be using later on. So I'm going to say Java-version, and I'm doing Maven-version exit 0 because I don't want this to fail at all. Next up, we'll go ahead and run Devbox run verify. Remember, that's running Maven-version and Java-version to tell me what the versions are. And then finally, Devbox run build to do the Maven clean install. Now I've already run this job, so let's go ahead and take a look at that within the controller. I'll go into Devbox, take a look at build number 7. What we'll see here is this job took 4 minutes and 22 seconds. Well, why did it take so long? If we go ahead and take a look at the console output and look at the full log, what we're going to see is our first call for Devbox version. We can see we're running currently 0.10.7. Next up in the stage to where we're checking Java and Maven, Java version, notice that it's 17.0.11. That's the base version of Java that's on the agent that Jenkins is using to be able to communicate between the controller and the agent. So that's just the base version. In fact, 17.0.11 is the same version of Java that's running my controller. So I'm matching up my agent Java version and my controller Java version. When we run Maven-version, we can see that Maven command was not found. So on the base agent, I've got Java 17 and no Maven installed. The next stage, we run our Devbox run verify. What it's telling us is we are ensuring the packages are installed. Remember, we have 2 packages. Let's go back to our Devbox JSON. We've got 2 packages, Maven 396 and Tamarin bin 2101. So we can see we're installing the following packages to the Nix store. Those are the 2 packages that we specified in our Devbox JSON. And then it goes through and installs all the files. We can see that it's almost 650 meg downloaded with almost a 1.3 gig unpack. So let's go ahead and scroll down and go past all the Nix installations and stores and everything else. All that's there. Now let's get down to right after the point to where we're doing our check. Now we can see we're using OpenJDK version 2101 and Maven version 396. Remember, up above on the base agent, there was nothing there. But now that we are running within the Devbox shell, even though we didn't execute shell when we did Devbox run, that opened up a shell for us automatically and then ran the script verify within that shell. So we can see that we have OpenJDK 2101, we have Maven 396, exactly what we're expecting. And then we run our Devbox run build, which goes through, runs the whole project. And this time, since this was on a fresh agent, this is the key part to everything that I'm showing right now. This agent was fresh. This job had never been run on this agent before. We go ahead and scroll down. We see all the Maven downloads from the internet. We do the build. And then once the build is complete, then we can see that everything is now done. Maven clean install, and installed it into our .m2 directory within the agent. All of that's fine. But remember, that took 4 minutes and 22 seconds. But we were also downloading everything for Devbox and everything for Maven. What happens once we actually run it with everything already installed? Let's go take a look at build number 8. What we'll see from build number 8, again, Devbox version 0.10.7. Our Java version's still 17 and Maven not found. We do our verify. We immediately see 2101 and our Maven 396. So everything's already installed and available to this agent. We go ahead and scroll down to the bottom, our Devbox run build. Our M2 cache is completely available to us, so that runs fast. We get down to the bottom, so when we take a look at the total runtime, it was 26 seconds, which is a much more reasonable run for our job. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to us on X, @CloudBees. If this video was helpful to you, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to CloudBees TV yet, why not? Take a moment, click on that subscribe button, and then ring that bell, and you'll be notified anytime there's new content available on CloudBees TV. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.